Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's Science classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to see current affairs of 4th August 2021. In this lecture, we are going to discuss 7 topics which are very much relevant to UPSC. So let's get started with our discussion and let us see first topic. Title says new frog species found in Western Ghats. So this article will be important regarding environment and ecology, which mainly comes under GS paper 3. So now let us try to see details of this frog. So context says that researchers from University of Delhi, they have named a newly discovered frog species after Vice Chancellor and renowned plant genetist. Okay, so recently one a new frog species discovered in Western Ghats and name which is given after name of Vice Chancellor and renowned plant genetist. So this new species discovered from globally recognized Western Ghats biodiversity hotspot. So where this new frog identified in Western Ghats. And if you are talking about this newly discovered species, so name which is given is Minervinia pentale. So it is endemic to southern Western Ghats and it belongs to family Dicroglossidae. And what are the threats which are facing by these frogs? So this threats part will be important from Maine's point of view. So what are the threats which are mainly faced? They include habitat loss and modification, other anthropogenic threats. So because of increase in human interference in their habitats like mining and also developmental activities, etc. So that is main cause leading to decline of population or completely wiping out of this newly discovered frog. Okay, so these are some important threats. First one is habitat loss, modification and other anthropogenic threats. Now let us move on to next topic. Title says improve social security for workers. So this article, it is very important from your governance point of view. So it mainly comes under GS paper 2. And this topic will be important from mains, not from prelims. So now let us try to understand this topic in a very great detail. So if you see context, it mainly says that direct transfer of money to bank accounts of informal workers and also urban employment guarantees scheme in lines of MG Narega in rural areas. So these are some recommendations of Parliamentary Standing Committee on Labour. So Parliamentary Standing Committee on Labour came up with some recommendations. It said that there is a need of direct benefit transfer. Okay, direct transfer of money to bank accounts of informal workers and as well as there is a need of urban employment guarantee scheme on the lines of MG Narega in rural areas. Okay, so recently this Parliamentary Standing Committee on Labour which came up with a report. So report title here is Impact of Pandemic on Rising Unemployment and Job Loss. So due to pandemic, so we saw almost all sectors they are affected. Okay, almost all sectors affected due to this pandemic and many small industries they went for closed down and even till now they are not reopened. So because of all these things there is increase in job loss and as well as students are not getting employment opportunities. There is also increasing unemployment. So due to all these now Parliamentary Standing Committee on Labour which mainly said that there is a need of direct benefit transfer or money should be transferred directly to bank accounts of informal workers and there is a need of urban employment guarantee scheme. So this is context and now let us try to understand some important details. So this report says that pandemic has devastated the labor market. So because of this there is increase in unemployment and there is loss of livelihood to many people and there is a loss of income. So these are some consequences due to pandemic. And this pandemic also threatening the survival of millions of workers and their families. So due to this, now government need to improve social security measures for these migrant laborers and as well as informal workers. So recently, periodic labor force survey PLFS report also said that 90% of workers in informal sectors, okay, 90% of workers are working in this informal sector. They contribute about 419 millions of 465 million workers. So out of total 465 million workers, so 419 million workers, they will comes under this informal sector itself. There is increase in unemployment rate in urban areas and who are above 15 years. So the unemployment increased, okay, increased from 9.1 percentage in January March 2020 to 20.8. There is almost 11 percentage of increase in unemployment that is seen. And due to COVID-19, which made matters much worse for women, young, self-employed, migrants, workers, etc. with low and medium skills. So people who are having this low and medium skills, for example, women, young, self-employed, migrants, workers, so their matters become very much worse due to COVID-19. And what is the need? What can be done? So need is, there is a need of robust, broad-based and women-centric based on social dialogues. So there is a need of robust and broad-based programs, and those programs need to be women-centric and they need to be based on social dialogues with all the stakeholders. This is one important thing. And next one is, here we need to promote and ensure seamless transition. And here, whatever the budgetary allocation for this Rural Employment Guarantee Act, that is MGNREGA, so that need to be increased due to increase in demand for work, especially in rural areas. Why there is increase in demand for this MGNREGA? So for especially these migrant workers, they move to their home areas, that is rural areas. So because of this, they are mainly finding job from this MGNREGA, and there is also increase in demand for this MGNREGA. So whatever the budgetary allocation is there, that is not sufficient now. So now your government need to increase budgetary allocation under this MGNREGA scheme. And next one is urban job guarantee scheme should be set up according to lines of this MGNREGA, which is operational in rural areas. And government need to provide universal health care, because due to this COVID-19 pandemic, so there is increasing of health burden that is seen especially in rural areas. Now in the second wave of COVID-19 pandemic, so that mainly shifted to these rural areas. So in these rural areas, they do not have proper healthcare facilities, and now these people, they are moving towards urban areas to get quality and also standard healthcare. So that led to increase in burden on those families. So whenever government which is providing this universal health care, that will be helpful for people who are especially poor. So these are the some important steps that can be taken. Now let us see next topic. Title says inefficient PDS deprived power since independence. So this is a statement which is given our Prime Minister. So this article mainly talking about this Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. So why our Prime Minister said this statement? Because in virtual interaction with beneficiaries of this Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana in Gujarat, so our Prime Minister said that there is inefficiency in delivery and corruption which marked public distribution system. In our public distribution system, so we are seeing some challenges like inefficiency in delivery of food grains, and there is corruption. So that is seen since independence. So because of some loopholes in this public distribution system in India, so that led to depriving the poor of free ration in our country. So this is the statement which is given by our Prime Minister. So if you are talking about some more details, it mainly says that during COVID-19 pandemic, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, it is a food security scheme which helped crores of poor people as government provided free food grains worth of rupees 2 lakh crores to almost 80 crore people. So this is about what this scheme achieved. Okay. So during COVID-19 pandemic under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. So it is a food security scheme. Under this scheme, it's mainly helped crores of people. Under this scheme, government provided free food grain supply of worth 2 lakh crore to almost 80 crore people. And now let us try to focus on some important facts regarding this Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. So this scheme as part of Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan package, and this scheme mainly to help poor to fight or to battle against COVID-19. And nodal ministry to implement this scheme is Ministry of Finance. So you have to remember this point. This might be important from your prelims point of view. And initially announced for a 3 months period, that is in months of April, May, June 2020. So initially it is announced for 3 months, April, May, June 2020, and it is covering 80 crore ration card holders. And it also extended till November 2020, and recently again we started in April 2021 due to second wave of coronavirus, and government mainly it extended till November 2021. So if you're talking about aim of this scheme, it is to provide each person who covered under National Food Security Act 2013 additional 5 kgs of grains, for example either wheat or rice, free of cost, along with subsidized food grains already provided through this PDS, public distribution system. So these are some important things that you need to remember. And now let us see next topic. Title says Governor's pardon power overrides 433A. So this is a statement which is given by our Honorable Supreme Court. So this topic will be important from our polity point of view under GS paper 2. So this governor's pardon power will comes under directly our static syllabus, right? So now let us try to understand why it is in use, and we are going to see some facts regarding this pardon powers also. So here if you see context, it mainly says that the Supreme Court held that governor of a state can pardon prisoners, and this include those on death row even before they have served a minimum 14 years of prison sentence. So context mainly says that even that prisoner who is even before they serve 14 years of a prison sentence, here governor has the power to give pardon to prisoners. So governor's power to pardon overrides the provision in Code of Criminal Procedure. So here governor's pardoning power will override the provision which is present in our Code of Criminal Procedure, that is section 433A. So here what is a section 433A? So this section of Criminal Procedure Code which says that, so it is mandatory, it is compulsory that prisoners' sentence can be remitted only after 14 years of jail. Only after 14 years of jail here pardoning powers will be available. But here according to our constitution it mainly said that, so even before that 14 years governor can give pardon. So this is the thing. So this section 433A which says that it does not in any way affect constitutional power conferred to president and governor. So constitution which is giving power to president and as well as governor to pardon, right? So how this will be override? Okay, so here section 433A of Criminal Procedure Code, it does not in any way, it will not going to affect constitutional power which is given to president and as well as governor to grant pardons under Article 72 and Article 161 of Indian Constitution. So Article 161 talks about pardoning powers of governor. Article 70 talks about pardoning power of president. Okay. So here this pardoning power of governor and president will override this section 433A of this Criminal Procedure Code. So this is news. Okay, so this is a thing which is given in news. So now let us try to see some important points regarding this pardoning power of governor. So Article 161 deals with pardoning power of governor. So under this governor can grant remit or remit or respite, reprieve or pardon. So here governor cannot pardon a death sentence, okay, but here president has power to pardon death sentence. And next one is governor cannot grant pardon, commutation, reprieve, respite, suspension, remission with respect to in punishment or sentence which is given by court martial. Okay, so these are some two exceptions. And if you're talking about what is meaning of pardon, pardon means completely absolving or completely removing any crime on that person and we are letting him go free like a normal person. And next one is commutation. Commutation means in simple changing a type of punishment given to the guilty into a less harsh one. For example, we are decreasing punishment from death penalty to life sentence. And next one is reprieve. Reprieve means delay which is allowed in execution of a sentence. And respite means which will be given in special circumstances like pregnancy or a mental condition or lactating woman, etc. And next one is remission. Remissions means changing the quantum of punishment without changing its nature. So 20 years of punishment will be decreased to 10 years or 7 years. So this is called as a remission. So these are different types of pardoning powers. So now let us move on to next topic. Title says a steep decline in cross-border firing. So this article mainly talking about ceasefire violations. Okay, this is about ceasefire violations. So this article will be important regarding security which comes under GS paper 3. And it is also important from international relations which comes under GS paper 2. Now let us try to talk about this topic in a very great detail. So if you're talking about ceasefire violations, so why it is in news? Because so recently Ministry of Home Affairs, that is MHA, came up with a report. So it mainly said that there is steep decline in cross-border firing by Pakistan was recorded in Jammu and Kashmir till June. So till June, there is steep decline of cross-border firing by Pakistan. When we are compared to number of ceasefire violations that is reported in 2020. So when we are comparing with this ceasefire violations in 2020, now we can say there is a steep decline in cross-border firing by Pakistan. And if you see some more details, it mainly says that there are about 664 ceasefire violations were reported till June. If you are comparing with earlier ceasefire violations, there are about 2,140 in 2018, 3,479 violations in 2019, 5,133 violations in 2020. So these are some important data. And if you're talking about what is a ceasefire violation, so what happened in simple words, so this ceasefire violation means non-observance of agreement. So if there is any agreement, we are not following that agreement, we are violating that agreement, that is called as ceasefire violation. So why we came up with ceasefire? Ceasefire means whenever any aggression which is happening on two sides, we are going to stop this aggression, okay, and we are going to suspend this aggression, that is called as ceasefire. So whenever this agreement which is mainly crossed, then that will lead to this ceasefire violation. So if you're talking about background of what is a ceasefire violation, so if you see in Jammu and Kashmir, so as we all know that this Jammu and Kashmir affected by terrorism, okay, terrorism sponsored, and also this terrorism supported from across the border for last 3 decades. From last 3 decades onwards, terrorism which is mainly supported by many people and as well as terrorism sponsored government is also seen in Pakistan. So because of all these things, now we are seeing ceasefire violations by Pakistan. They are reported from LOC in Jammu and Kashmir. So across this line of control, we are seeing this ceasefire violation that is happening. So government has adopted a policy of zero tolerance towards terrorism. That means any terrorist activities which is done, here government which is going for retaliation. So whenever there is any terrorism related things are happening, so immediate and effective retaliation is undertaken by security forces in case of any ceasefire violations or cross-border firing, etc. So now here this article says that there is substantial decrease in terrorist activities over last 3 years here. So mainly because of some measures which are undertaken by government. So these steps are taken by government that will be important from your mains point of view. So what are the steps which are taken? So first one is government came up with this kinetic operations. So under this kinetic operations, it actively identifying the terrorists and their tactical supporters. And we are going to identify terrorists, and as well as we are going to identify some supporters of this terrorist, and we are going to catch them. And the next one is we are also having some preventive operations. So what are these preventive operations? So under these operations, we are identifying the strategic supporters of terrorism and as well as some investigating agencies. By using this investigating agencies and processes, we are mainly exposing their mechanism of aiding and as well as abetting terrorism, like funding, recruiting, etc. So in this way, we are mainly going for preventive operations. And next one is we already increased night patrolling. So night patrolling has been intensified, and even in some infiltration routes, we also set up nakas. And vehicles that are coming from borders are being thoroughly checked. Okay, so because of this, that led to decrease in some important incidents. And next one is coordination meetings. So regularly these meetings are conducted and we are having high alertness. High alertness is being maintained by all the forces deployed in area. And next one is we are also sharing intelligence inputs on real-time basis among all security forces. Okay, among all the security forces along this Jammu and Kashmir. So we are having intelligence sharing also. So these are some important steps taken by India, that is Government of India, that led to decreasing of ceasefire violations. So this is just of this topic. I hope it is clear. Now let us see one infographic. This infographic I took from page number 7. Okay. So whenever government which is giving this type of data, that will be very important whenever you are writing any answer. So this data which is given directly from source here, it is Lok Sabha itself. Okay. So this infographic which is mainly talking about unclaimed wealth. So you need to remember what is unclaimed wealth. So why? Because so whenever this type of terms which comes in newspaper, you can expect a question like, so recently unclaimed wealth is seen in news. So what is meaning of this unclaimed wealth? And they will give you options A, B, C, D and ask you to choose correct answer. So in this way, you can get a question regarding this topic. So here if you see this infographic, it mainly talking about this unclaimed wealth. So this article will be important regarding economy, which comes under GS paper 3. So now let us try to talk about this topic. So here context says that about rupees 50,000 crores is lying as unclaimed deposits or amounts with various Indian banks and insurance companies. So in Indian banks and insurance companies, we are having about rupees 50,000 crores as unclaimed deposits. So this is the data according to December 2020. And this unclaimed deposits or unclaimed money has significantly increased from about rupees 30,000 crore. 30,000 crore that is seen in 2018, and 2020 it is about rupees 50,000 crore. So now let us try to understand what is meaning of this unclaimed money or unclaimed deposits. So if a customer who is making deposit in so and so bank, okay, and he is not doing any transactions with that account. So and so person opened one account and he went for deposit, okay, and he went for deposit in that account, but he is not using that account for at least 10 years. So that account is called as unclaimed account. So if customers does not make any transaction using that account for at least 10 years, that is called as unclaimed account. And most of this unclaimed money exists with public banks and insurance providers. So this type of accounts that is seen with public banks and as well as insurance providers. So here if you are talking about this SBI, State Bank of India, which is having 15% of total unclaimed deposits. So it is of highest among all the banks. So if you see further data, it mainly says that December 2020, about 8.13 crore unclaimed accounts existed in various Indian banks. So in various Indian banks, about 8.13 crore unclaimed accounts are existed. And it is 1.7 times more than such accounts that is seen in 2018. And SBI Bank which is having 1.31 crore accounts as of December 2020, and out of this 3,577 crore of unclaimed money that is seen in these accounts. And even LIC, okay, Life Insurance Corporation of India, which is also having rupees 19,100 crore of unclaimed money, and over 80% of total such money in all insurance companies that is seen here. Okay, so if you see some more data in this infographic, it mainly talked about 4 important things, that is growing amount. Okay, so if you are seeing with the 2018 and if you are comparing with 2020, both unclaimed accounts have been increased and as well as unclaimed money deposited is also increased when you are comparing with 2018 to 2020. And next one is share of deposits. So the share of deposits also have been increased. So in public sector banks it is 83%. In 2000, share of accounts is 88%. Okay, and here money is about 84% and share of amount here is 83% in public sector banks. And if you are talking about insurance money, so amount unclaimed from life insurance is also increased by 1.5 times. And next one is share of amount. Okay, share of amount that is seen in LIC, it is about 82% and other private include 18%. So these are some important data that is given in this infographic that will be very useful whenever you are writing mains answer, and also you can expect a question regarding what is this unclaimed money in your prelims. Okay, so now let us move on to next topic. So before seeing next topic, I want to make a small announcement on this platform. If you want to clear UPSC 2022, we came up with one excellent, highly beneficial and also highly economical course, that is current affairs package along with mains answer writing practice. So how this course will be useful? So one thing you need to remember here is before entering into examination hall, you need to know at least 1.5 years current affairs for sure. And this is right time to join this course to cover this 1.5 years current affairs. And next one is here we are focusing exclusively on mains answer writing practice. So many students who are especially freshers or beginners, they ignore this mains answer writing practice. So they might be thinking like after completing NCERTs we are going to start that, or after completing some basic standard books we are going to start that. But you are not going to complete your syllabus within time due to vast syllabus, and you are finally ignoring this mains answer writing practice. So even though with your hard work, if you clear prelims, you cannot clear mains without this answer writing skills for sure. Okay, so in this course we are mainly focusing on how to improve your answer writing skills. And next one is we also conduct prelims test on every Sunday, and we provide a video explanation part. So in this way, this course which is designed as per demand of UPSC. So finally, I want to say one thing, please don't take this course as a choice. Try to join this course as soon as possible and achieve your dream of clearing UPSC. Details of this course which is given in description box, so please visit that once. And if you want to talk to me directly, you can call to this number 8074765513. Okay, now let's come back and let us see next topic. Title says poverty in India is one of the rise again. So this article mainly talking about poverty in India. So as you all know, in GS paper 2 we are having a separate topic in our static syllabus like poverty. So the data which is given in this article will be very much useful to write any answer regarding that poverty, and you can expect question regarding poverty in this year mains for sure. So now let us try to see next details of this article. So this article mainly focusing on poverty in India. So India has not released its consumption expenditure survey since 2011 to 2012. So for every once in 5 years, this consumption expenditure survey will be released. Okay. So since 2011 to 12, still now this consumption expenditure survey data, it is not released. Actually, this survey will be conducted by National Sample Survey Office once in every 5 years. But this survey already conducted in year 2017 to 18, but details it is not made public, officially public by Government of India. And it is likely to be conducted in 2021 to 2022. And recently this NSO periodic labor force survey details are released, and it mainly says that employment had reached a 45 years high. Unemployment had reached a 45 years high in 2017-18. Okay, employment has been increased. Okay, so this is employment. So please once check it is employment or unemployment. And next one is it includes employment and as well as unemployment rounds from 1973 to 74 to 2011 to 2012 collected consumption expenditure of households. So actually we saw that this consumption expenditure survey which mainly conducted in 2011 to 12, and from that till now really there is no data regarding this. So here in this consumption expenditure of households, it already have a rounds regarding employment as well as unemployment rounds from 1973-74 to 2011 to 12. So here this data which is very much sufficient to estimate change of consumption on consistent basis across the time. So in this way, this data also enables to estimate incidence of poverty, and incidence of poverty has always fallen consistently according to these studies. From 1973-74 it was 53.9%, and 2004 to 2005 it is 27.5% according to this Lagdawala poverty line. So according to this Lagdawala poverty line, so here we can say poverty has been drastically decreasing. But in 2011 we are mainly decided to change this poverty line according to recommendations of Suresh Tendulkar committee. So we are going to raise from $1.09 to 1.90% per day, and based on this Tendulkar poverty line, poverty estimates for 2004, 2005 and 2011 to 2012, they are found in Planning Commission's own estimates by using the CES studies. And it extended 2011 to 12 poverty line for each state and used consumption expenditure. And recent report by this periodic labor force survey which mainly estimated that so there is a consistent poverty head count ratio, that is incidence of poverty in the population, so that had been increased. Okay, and if you're talking about this survey also ask some household questions like so how much expenses they are doing on health and as well as clothing, beds and as well as education, footwear, consumer durables, etc. So these questions will be asked just a day before or prior to this survey. But for non-durable consumption goods here, so for this non-durable consumer goods, so here for example exceptions, expenses regarding food, housing, convenience, clothing, etc., that should be asked at least 30 days prior to the day of survey. So because of this, finally we can see the result or report. For the first time in India's history of estimating poverty, there is rise in incidence of poverty since 2011 to 2012. And rural consumption between this 2012 and 2018 that had been fall down by 8%, and urban consumption has been raised by 2%. And since majority of population of India which is seen in rural areas, poverty in India is also predominantly rural poverty. An absolute number of poor risen from 217 million in 2012 to 270 million in 2019-20 in rural areas, and 53 millions to 71 millions in urban areas, and total there is increase in absolute poor of about 70 millions. So these are some important highlights of this periodic labor force survey recent report. And what are the factors that are responsible for this increase in poverty? So actually we went for demonetization. So because of this demonetization that led to poverty, and this demonetization also followed by poorly planned, hurriedly introducing of GST, goods and service tax in 2017. So both of these steps were taken by government that delivered body blows to unorganized sector and micro and small medium enterprises. And next one is economic slowdown also seen, and after that even private investments that fell from 31% to 28%. Exports also fell, consumption stagnated in our economy, household savings also that fell, and there is also rising of unemployment and joblessness. So because of all these things, now poverty has been increased. Okay, so this is gist of this topic. I hope it is clear. So these are some important articles that appear in today's Hindu newspaper. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. And don't forget to enroll to this current affairs package. Thank you so much.